So a few weeks ago, I was asked to look into the building of a template for a customer that's a surveyor working for a construction company, but he has to do a number of different types of surveys, including legal and cadastral boundary type surveys, as well as doing data prep modeling services and some takeoff and estimating. And in the process, he sent me a DWG file of his engineering company's project template for AutoCAD, and he asked if I could reproduce that in a TBC template for them. So I started to do that, and this is the result in 5.52. So I imported his DWG file, and I just want to highlight some of the issues that were associated with this particular template. So if I look at the drawing file here, there are a number of different sheets provided in this drawing template, and if I go to the first one, now there's issues that are AutoCAD related that we have to fix no matter what. But the first thing that you'll notice when you look at this file, if I look at it in AutoCAD, it doesn't look anything like this. This is TBC 5.2, and what you're seeing here is blocks that are 12 times too big. So this block here is meant to be 1/12 the size. So when you imported AutoCAD DWG files into the sheet view, blocks come in 12 times too big. When you look at the legend text, this in itself doesn't look too bad. The blocks down here are obviously too big. But the text, when you compare it with AutoCAD, the text is much more spaced apart in TBC than it is in AutoCAD. And when you look at the result of that, you get this kind of stuff. Line spacing in AutoCAD is different, and also text that should wrap doesn't, and text that should fit in title boxes doesn't. And these are fairly common problems with TBC 5.52. And we took a long, hard look at this for all of these different sheet types to get to the bottom of this and work with Trimble to get them to improve this area of the software, so that on importing data into TBC from AutoCAD, or exporting data from TBC out to AutoCAD, which has its own set of problems, to try and solve that. Now, the biggest challenges with this data type were that in 5.52, AutoCAD often has smart text or smart formatting embedded in text. So if I take this text block here and I look at it over here in the properties pane, if I click on this button here, you'll see that inside the smart text, it shows you the text itself, but you can't see the smart text formatting. But if I press F2, it puts it into this raw mode. And in the raw mode, you can see that it has this embedded formatting information in the text. And in 5.52, while TBC somewhat supports that, it really didn't. And we've gone through this process and now fixed this significantly to make it better on import. And so all these issues existed with each of these different sheets in AutoCAD here. And while TBC would read the data, there's a significant amount of formatting that needed to be done to the data to make it usable as a basis for a template. So in the process, I went through fixing all this for the template that I was working on, but I also was reporting all the issues that I was seeing and working with Trimble to get these resolved. And the end result is, if I go into 5.6 and look at the same project data now, straight after import in here, if I go to plan sets and go to the same drawing sheets in here, with the latest build of TBC, this was just imported, you can see now that the text fits perfectly on here, the text is fitting perfectly here, the blocks are sized correctly, the north arrow is sized correctly, the title box text all fits in the title box area. And when I compare this with AutoCAD, the wrapping of the text is being managed properly, and also the line spacing is being managed properly, the address lays out correctly, the embedded formatting is working correctly, and you'll see that on every one of these sheets. And so a significant improvement in TBC that may or may not have made it into the release notes is the ability to support the import of DWG text objects and block objects, especially into the sheet view, but also into the plan view, and get the formatting of the text correct in this process. And so you'll see a significant improvement when you import AutoCAD DWG data into TBC with relationship to text, and that the text is now more immediately matching what's in AutoCAD. And I think you'll find that this is a major step forward. You can see here all the blocks are nicely sized in the title boxes and borders. So now with this import, with the latest release, there's not a huge amount of work to do to turn this into a template, whereas in the old one, there was a ton of work to be done, and really you had to rework everything from scratch. So major improvement here in terms of the difference between the previous release and the new release. Now the other thing is that if I pick this text block here, for example, and exported that to a DWG from 5.52, the width factor of this text was not carried, and so consequently this whole text block would write out on a single line, which would come out for miles out the side here of the drawing sheet. Whereas now it's picking up the formatting and the custom formatting and transferring it back to AutoCAD, so you get a much better two-way compatibility between the two. Now the other thing that we also added in TBC is when you make an adjustment to a text block like this one, by using the shift key and scrolling this to change the formatting here. If I undo this again and use the control key, using this formatting, you can change the width field. You'll see that after I've made the change, that the width here and the line spacing is now reported to you in the graphic, in the properties pane. So you can always go in here and just change this to 5.2 to resize that text block according to what you had. I'm just going to go back to the original here. You can also change things like the line spacing of this. If I want to change the line spacing to, let's say, 0.75, that compresses the data up significantly, reduces the line spacing to take up less space. So you've now got more controls over this smart text than you had in the previous release of TBC. Smart text, smart formatting of the text data in the drawing sheet. So again, major improvements to blocks. The other problem we saw with blocks is that the color coding in here, if you use the view filter override functionality in the advanced view filter settings, so if I go into view filters here and I apply these advanced view filter settings to override the color, line style, and line weight on screen and for printing purposes, that a block itself wasn't picking up on the color changes defined by this. Now they are. So again, we've made the drawing compatibility between AutoCAD and Trimble Business Center significantly better as a result in this release. So I think you'll like these changes. And this, to me, is one of the biggest changes we've made, and it will make reading DWG files much better when it comes to text and block information. Okay, thank you.